My name is Christopher Carey, and today I'm joined by Frank Black, Senior Sales Executive for XR Solutions at Lenovo. Today's discussion will focus on navigating business needs in VR today. Frank, it's great to have you with us today. You've been in the industry a long time, I think over 10 years. How do you see its development? Where are we now? Where are we going?
I was thinking about this, probably one of the best ways of describing it is that when I first started doing this, we were selling cave systems, immersive caves with projector systems. That was immersive technology, 12, 14 years ago. An average cave would cost you about $500,000. Big fancy super ones, you're looking million and a half dollars. I can do the same thing on the MetaQuest at $500 today, and that's within a 12-year period of time. That's 1,000%, 1,000x reduction in price, and just that alone has really stimulated tremendous growth in the XR space. So we've come a long way. I mean, it's really pretty exciting, and I think it's a good time to be in the XR industry.
So where does Lenovo sit within the industry?
Great question. So Lenovo has been actually very active in the XR space for quite some time, especially starting back as early as 2017 with its first headsets that is brought to market. And where Lenovo adds a tremendous amount of value is that we are an enterprise IT company. We understand enterprise computing. We understand scale, and we've been working with enterprise customers for decades, and we're the number one PC manufacturer out there. The technical skill set that I find coming into Lenovo, been recently hired here, is phenomenal. So you've got a level of domain expertise that is just absolutely first class in the industry. And one of the things that Lenovo really understands is a complete solution. What is the total cost of ownership if you're looking at deploying an enterprise computing device? And that's what these devices are. They're really enterprise computing devices, no different than your mobile phone or your PC. It's just a next-gen way of interfacing with content, if you will. So that's Lenovo's bailiwick. That's what we do day in and day out. And we understand that the customers, they want world-class service. You've got to be able to call somebody when you have a problem and have somebody return your phone call, not wait days, not wait hours. So we have what we call list services, which is Lenovo Integrated Solution Support. We wrap that around anybody that purchases the MetaQuest headset. So you get the wonderful Lenovo support. It's localized. So again, on a worldwide basis, you're talking to people that speak your language. We train our service and support people very specifically on the devices that they're supporting. So we can problem solve very quickly, whether it's a hardware problem or software problem. And then we have escalation services that are all tied back to our partners, our software partners and hardware partners, tier 2, tier 3. So an enterprise customer that's having an issue can get have their uptime increased radically. It's very, very important to the enterprise customer. The other side of it is just the financial services. A lot of our customers have experienced, successful deployments. They've done their pilots, they've done their POCs, they may have done a limited deployment, but now they're ready to scale and they're ready to really commit to XR. So they're looking for different financial models that again drop down the costs, but also kind of get more in cycle with the natural buying process that is going out in the enterprise. So we have DaaS services, device as a service. That's extremely important to a lot of customers. They can take their CapEx expense, move it over to an OpEx expense, and they can establish a regular cycle just like they do with their PCs and other computing products where they have a refresh cycle. Lenovo knows how to do that. We'll take the old headsets, we'll recycle them. Again, a complete service and support across total ownership, total cost of ownership from first touch to end of life with your XR needs. I think that is very unique to Lenovo, and Lenovo is well positioned in the industry to do this well.
And what opportunities are you seeing in the industry today? Are there any areas that maybe there haven't been explored that are worth delving into?
Well, I think the biggest opportunity in the market is actually focusing on the right opportunities. That's been a challenge for a lot of people in VR is over the last 10 years, what are the use cases? What actually works? What's cost effective? What can be deployed? What's the total cost of ownership of deploying an application? And certainly over the last 5 years, especially, these questions have really been answered. And I think the use cases are well established. The proof points are out there. And we're really coming out of, I would say, the early adopters. We're kind of right on the edge of that early adopter to early majority. I do believe we're out of the trough of disillusionment, and deploying XR has become very practical and cost effective. And it's the proof points are there in the industry. People are having success. They're saving money. They're adding, they're increasing their efficiencies, and you just got to focus on the right use cases.
And what about when it comes to the challenges? What are you seeing on the horizon, or has there been any evolution in the challenges faced?
Well, a lot of the challenges, I'll speak from a business perspective rather than a technical perspective. And that goes back again to dealing with the right use cases. You're not a hammer looking for a nail. That's been kind of the curse of a lot of emerging technologies, is just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something or that it's cost effective. And I think it's the use cases that have been established with VR and across the XR spectrum are well known today. And companies really need to do their research, work with domain experts like myself and our colleagues, and to really identify where we can add value in their business. Aside from that, the form factor, the friction associated with the form factor continues to be a challenge. There's a lot of progress that's being made. The headsets are lighter, they're less expensive, they're easier to wear, they're still comfortable, but they're not a pair of glasses. And ultimately that's what people want. They want a lightweight, pair of glasses you can put on and have all the magic of XR associated with it. That's going to be a while. The laws of physics have not been suspended. So, battery power and computational capabilities are still a barrier. But that's getting resolved over time. But there's great use cases that are practical, affordable, and are showing a lot of value. So I see the industry really being at a point now where the cost structure has come down significantly. The use cases are readily available. There's lots of great third-party studies showing data that confirms what everybody has hoped as the promise of VR, and it's out there. And I just encourage companies to take another look at XR if they haven't for a while, and see if we can add value to your business.
And what are Lenovo? What are you hearing back from Lenovo customers about their VR deployments?
Another great question. It's been pretty exciting for me because my history has gone back, 10, 12 years, very early in the enterprise VR space. And I worked for years just trying to figure out, work with customers, trying to figure out what are the use cases. And you're really I've been in, I think everybody refers to it as POC hell, where you're in that proof of concept. Is this going to work? Everybody works hard. You do 8 months of study and you come out and you go, it kind of works. We're done with that. That's not really the case anymore. So the proof points are there, and Lenovo, as customers, are looking to scale. And that's what I've been finding. So coming back into the industry, I was doing AR before, and now I'm recently hired by Lenovo, and super excited to see the VR space mature the way it is. So the customers I'm interacting with, they've done the pilots, they've done the POCs, some have limited deployments, and now they're saying, hey, we're finding value. We feel that we really have a great application here, and we want to scale it. And a lot of these customers want to scale it on an international basis, on a worldwide basis. So they may have a deployment in France that's working, but they want to bring it to the US and they want to scale that now. So the scalability is where we're really at in the industry today, at least with the customers that I've been working with. They've done the POCs, they've done the pilots, and they're saying we need to scale. And that's when they call Lenovo, because they need an enterprise company that knows how to scale with their business. And that's what Lenovo brings to the party. True enterprise understanding. We speak their language. We have the services, the support, the international manufacturing capabilities. That's our business, enterprise IT, and how to scale, service, and support your customers.
So, what verticals are embracing VR and why?
Yeah, so the primary verticals really are training and education. That's where we're finding a lot of traction and a lot of value. So you have training and education, and I'll split those into two. You also have design review, and I'd say those three are the big ones. Design review is very established. It's been established for some time. I mean, that goes back to the caves that I was talking about earlier in our conversation. The Fords, the General Motors, the big aerospace companies, they've been doing VR for decades. It was way too expensive for most companies, and a lot of use cases couldn't justify it. But now with the decrease in price, with the availability of really fantastic ISVs, independent software vendors out there, the maturity of those vendors, the maturity of their applications, the use cases of training and education are well understood and have a lot of value to the customer. So the real key, though, is focusing on the right training use cases. So the customers I primarily work with, I really look for large, big, expensive, let's say in manufacturing equipment, that when it's down, you're bleeding money. It's hard to operate. You don't want somebody messing around with it that may break it or may damage the equipment. So setting up training in a virtual environment and socializing that person onto the equipment is a really cost-effective way of accelerating your training and accelerating the competency of those operators. And training it's not an all or nothing. Training is a funnel. So you got the VR training up top, which is your socialization. You're learning where the buttons are. You're learning the do's, the don'ts, the general operation of the equipment. But then you can move on to the equipment itself, and you can actually really enhance that deep hands-on experience. So that's where people are seeing a lot of value in the manufacturing space. Education, K through 12 and higher ed, they're embracing VR and immersive learning in a huge way. Budgets have been allocated, and when you look at K through 12, it's a natural extension of the STEM learning programs that are in there. And you put a VR headset in there and immerse those students in learning. And again, the data that's coming back, their comprehension is going up, their learning times are increasing. It's showing a lot of value, and the engagement with the students is going through the roof. So a lot of educational facilities are embracing this in a big way. And like I mentioned, the budgets are there. The other side or another market that I'm finding a lot of traction in is healthcare, and it's kind of the same. It's the same premise. You're dealing with expensive, hard to use equipment. If we're doing hard skill training, they break. It can break easy, and it's very specific to specific types of uses. So training nurses, doctors, technical technicians. Using VR is a fantastic use case. And then you also get into soft skills. And I think the soft skill training is one of these things that is really coming on strong. And a lot of that has to do with the advent of Gen AI. And that's, again, reduced the cost of creating it, but it also, from a soft skill perspective, makes it very easy to create a natural dialogue between a virtual human and yourself. And there's ISVs out there that are doing an absolutely fantastic job creating easy to use interfaces where learning and development departments can take their standard procedures and methodologies in terms of how they want their employees to communicate, and they can basically drop those into an AI engine, and the character is responding the way you would want in a role simulation. So this was hard coded years ago, right? I mean, you'd have to have branching paths in terms of what people would say. Characters would just sit for a minute and compute, and then they'd start talking again. It wasn't a very great experience. Now it's natural. You're immersed. You see those characters. They're communicating with you, and it's a great way of learning, especially with soft skills. So soft skills, hard skills, training, education, healthcare. They're all taking off, and they're all finding value these days.
Interesting. And how do you see the industry evolving over the next 1 to 2 years?
I think the evolution is going to continue on the same path that it is, a reduction of costs across the entire ecosystem. And that's really probably the biggest point that I'd like to make in this interview, really, is that the total cost of ownership of creating an XR application, deploying that XR application, purchasing the equipment that supports that XR application, and servicing that have come down radically. So again, it's a lot of ISVs out there have low code, no code tools. You're not having to use Unity or Unreal, and be able to code. Most of these ISVs, you drag and drop little WYSIWYGs. You can actually, a learning development manager can actually create their own trainings. And again, that drops the cost down significantly, but it also allows those L&D folks to leverage their domain expertise in a way that isn't necessarily going to get translated into a hard-coded experience. It's going, it's moving. Devices are going to get more powerful as compute continues to evolve. AI obviously is changing a lot of things, but the general just evolution of technology is getting faster, and VR is benefiting from it. One other example that has been a major block, I've referred to it as the last mile problem for VR for many years. It's just been getting your CAD files or creating the content itself. So you've got Gen AI that is helping on the creation side, but you also have, from a design biz perspective, most of the ISVs now have data translation technology, so they can take CAD files and they can bring them in. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that was a somewhat of a manual process where you had to have technical artists that would bring these CAD files into like 3D Studio Max or some other 3D tool, then optimize them and then bring them into your headset to be able to play. So the costs associated with that were very high, and the time associated with it just really killed a lot of use cases. So those types of kind of core development technologies are there, and obviously AI is a game changer. And I think there's the consumer market is supporting the XR space, and that's where the Meta headset comes in. Meta is just doing a fantastic job in the consumer space, and that is subsidizing a lot of the work that we can take into the enterprise space with the reduction of the cost of the headsets and the numbers of people that are actually have experienced VR and understand what it is and can see the value as they move into business and apply that into a business context. So I think, like I mentioned, we're coming out of the kind of early adopter trough of disillusionment, and we're getting into the beginnings of the early majority. And it's an exciting time to be in the XR business.
So thanks for the discussion today, Frank. I think that's all we have time for, but it's been a really good session. And if people want to get in touch more about this topic, what's the best way?
Well, the best way is to hit us up on the Lenovo website, lenovo.com/thinkreality. We've got a comprehensive website, goes through our XR offerings. And I would also encourage people, please hit me up on LinkedIn. I'd love to talk to you about your XR needs. We have a lot of domain experts as well that I can refer you to, or industry experts in general. Love to hear what you need, what your business requirements are, and see if we can help.
Great. Thank you, Frank. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and a share on social media, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.